The wind howled across the frozen plains. It was not just cold, it was cruel, cutting through the air like a knife. Snow covered everything, turning the world white and empty. No birds, no sound, no life, only the endless whisper of the storm. In the ruins of an old stone shelter, a group of small alien children huddled together. Their thin bodies shook with the cold, their skin pale and cracked from frost. They were the Thrain, a species once known for building great starships and singing to the stars. Now they were only shadows of what they used to be. Their parents were gone. Their cities turned to dust in the Galactic War. The oldest girl, Rin, wrapped her little brother in a torn piece of blanket. She tried to smile, but her lips were too numb. "Don't sleep," she whispered. "If you sleep, you won't wake up." Her voice trembled, and her eyes filled with tears. The boy nodded weakly, his breathing slow and shallow. Outside, the storm grew stronger. The ground cracked and groaned as if the planet itself was dying. Once, this world had oceans and green skies. Now everything was ice. The Thrain called it the last winter, and many believed this was the end of their kind. Rin looked up at the dark sky. Somewhere above those clouds were the stars, places she had only heard about in her parents' stories. Maybe someone is out there, she thought. Maybe someone will hear us. But even as she hoped, she knew the truth. No one cared anymore. The Galactic Council had banned travel to dying planets. To them, the Thrain were already dead. Suddenly, a light flashed across the sky. Rin blinked and rubbed her eyes. At first, she thought it was a star falling, but the light grew brighter, louder, closer. A fiery trail cut through the clouds and crashed into the snow not far from their shelter. The ground shook, sending a wave of snow and ice through the air. The children screamed and ducked down. When the shaking stopped, silence returned. But it was a different kind of silence. A strange hum filled the air, soft and steady. Rin stood slowly, her heart pounding. "What was that?" one of the younger children asked. "I don't know," she whispered. "But maybe it's help." She walked toward the crash site, the snow almost reaching her knees. The others followed, scared but curious. Through the thick fog, they saw it. A metallic shape, half buried in the ice. It was not like their old ships. It was smoother, brighter, alive with blue light. Steam rose from its surface as if it breathed. A door opened on the side of the ship. Warm air spilled out, touching Rin's face like sunlight. For a moment, she just stood there. It had been so long since she felt warmth that her eyes filled with tears. A figure stepped out from the ship, tall, wearing white armor that shone in the light. The figure moved slowly, carefully, as if afraid to scare them. When it removed its helmet, Rin gasped. The face was different, strange, soft but kind. It was a human. The human looked around, his breath misting in the cold. His eyes met Rin's, and he spoke. His voice was deep but gentle. "You don't have to stay here," he said. Rin didn't move, her hands shaking. The younger children clung to her legs, afraid. The human crouched down and held out a hand. "Come with me," he said quietly. "It's warm inside." No one spoke. The Thrain children had been taught that humans were dangerous, bringers of war. But this man didn't look like a soldier. He looked tired, sad, and yet hopeful. Rin took a small step forward. Her heart beat so fast she could hear it. "Who are you?" she asked softly. The man smiled, a gentle human smile. "Someone who doesn't want you to die," he said. Behind him, the light from the ship glowed brighter. It looked like a doorway to another world. A world without cold, without fear. Rin turned to the others. They looked at her with wide eyes, waiting for her choice. She took her brother's hand and whispered, "We have nowhere else to go." Then she looked back at the human. "Okay," she said. "We'll come with you." The man nodded and helped them onto the ship. The moment they stepped inside, the warmth wrapped around them like a living thing. The metal floor hummed softly, and lights flickered across the walls. The door closed behind them, shutting out the storm. For the first time in years, the children felt safe. Outside, the wind screamed against the hull, but inside there was silence. A peaceful, gentle silence. The ship rose slowly into the dark sky, leaving behind the frozen world of the Thrain. Rin watched from the window as the white land disappeared below. She didn't know where the human would take them, but for the first time, she felt something strange and beautiful. She felt hope. The ship's door closed behind them with a soft hiss. The howling wind vanished, replaced by a low hum that filled the air. For the first time in years, the Thrain children felt warmth on their faces. It was gentle, wrapping around them like a living blanket. The younger ones looked around with wide eyes, their breath trembling. Strange lights blinked across the walls, and smooth metal panels glowed like fireflies. Rin held her brother's hand tightly, afraid it might all be a dream. She could still feel the frost on her skin, but it was melting now. She turned to the human who had saved them. He was tall, with tired eyes and a quiet smile. His armor was scratched and burned, proof of long battles and lonely journeys. He looked at the children and said softly, "You're safe here now." Rin didn't answer. She just nodded slowly. Her people had learned never to trust strangers. But something about his voice, the way it carried warmth and sadness, made her want to believe. The human walked to a small console and pressed a button. A low hum filled the ship, and hidden vents released warm air that smelled faintly of metal and rain. He motioned to a table where steaming cups appeared from a slot. "Drink," he said. "It will help your body temperature." The smallest Thrain child sniffed the cup first, then took a careful sip. Her eyes widened. "It's sweet," she whispered. The others rushed forward, taking their share. Their pale cheeks began to show faint color again. Rin waited until everyone had something before she took her cup. It was hot, smooth, and filled her chest with heat. She hadn't felt that in so long that she almost cried. The human watched them quietly, leaning against the wall. After a while, he spoke. "My name is Dr. Elias Ward," he said. "I'm from Earth." The children froze, staring at him. Even Rin's eyes widened. "Earth?" she whispered. "That's the human world." Elias nodded slowly. "Yes," he said, "but I'm not here as part of the council." The name made Rin's stomach twist. The Galactic Council, the rulers of the known systems. They were the reason her people had been abandoned. After the war, the council had labeled the Thrain as a lost species. No aid, no rescue, no mercy, just silence and laws. She stepped closer and asked, "If they find us, what will they do?" Elias sighed, running a hand through his hair. "They'll arrest me for interference," he said quietly, "and they'll take you away." The room went cold again, not from air, but from fear. Rin's little brother hid behind her legs. Elias looked at them, at their thin clothes, at their shaking hands, and his eyes softened. "I don't care about their laws," he said. "I didn't come all this way to leave you there." Rin blinked, confused. "Why?" she asked. "Humans don't help Thrain, they fear us." Elias smiled sadly. "Maybe most do," he said, "but I've seen too much war, too much death. I decided a long time ago that I'd rather save life than take it." He walked to the front of the ship and sat in the pilot's seat. Through the window, the frozen planet still shimmered below, silent and broken. Elias looked at the stars above it and muttered, "Hold on." The engines began to glow blue and the entire ship trembled. Rin and the others clung to the walls as the craft lifted into the storm. The wind screamed against the hull, but they rose higher and higher. Clouds turned to mist, mist to stars. Then, silence. Outside, space stretched endless and dark, dotted with distant suns. The children pressed their faces to the glass, staring in awe. Rin whispered, "It's beautiful." Elias nodded. "It always is," he said, "and dangerous too." He adjusted the controls, scanning the radar. "Council patrols are everywhere," he murmured. "We'll need to hide." Rin frowned. "Hide where?" He smiled faintly. "There's a place," he said. "A station beyond council reach, a home for those who don't belong anywhere." She stared at him, her heart heavy but hopeful. "Will we be safe there?" she asked. Elias didn't answer right away. He just looked at her and said, "I'll do everything I can to make sure of it." Suddenly, a red light flashed on the control panel. Elias cursed under his breath. Rin's ears twitched. "What's happening?" she asked. He turned to her, his face tense. "Council drones," he said. "They've found us." The hum of the ship grew louder as the radar filled with dots. Rin's heart raced. They had only just escaped death, and now it was chasing them again. Elias gripped the controls, his voice firm. "Hold on tight, everyone," he said. "We're not going back." The children screamed as the Sheen dove into a field of shining ice asteroids. Explosions flared outside as plasma bolts flew past. Elias's hands moved quickly over the controls. Rin held her brother close, whispering prayers from an old Thrain lullaby. The ship shook violently, lights flickered, and alarms blared. Elias shouted, "Come on! Come on!" As he tried to power the jump drive, outside, the patrol ships closed in. Inside, the children cried. And Rin looked at Elias with eyes that no longer saw a stranger. They saw someone who refused to let them die. "Do it!" she yelled. Elias slammed the final lever forward. A bright blue light swallowed the entire ship. The stars stretched into lines. The noise vanished. And then, nothing but silence. The silence after the jump was almost unreal. For a moment, no one spoke. No one breathed. The ship floated in the middle of dark space, surrounded by distant stars that blinked like frozen fireflies. The children looked around, their faces pale and tired. The storm was gone, but the fear still lingered in the air like smoke. Dr. Elias Ward sat at the control seat, sweat running down his neck. His hands trembled as he checked the ship's readings. "Engines holding," he whispered. "We made it." Rin stood behind him, her small hands gripping the back of his chair. "Where are we?" she asked softly. Elias took a deep breath. "Somewhere far from your world," he said, "but not far enough." The ship's warning lights still blinked red. One engine was damaged from the fight, and the jump drive was overheated. He needed time to repair. But time was the one thing they didn't have. He looked at the scanner screen. Faint signals appeared on the edge, moving fast, closing in. "Council drones," he muttered. Rin's heart sank. "They followed us?" "They always do," he said grimly. "They never let go once they mark a target." Elias stood up, grabbing his toolkit. "Stay he." "All right," he said. "I need to fix the engine or we won't survive another chase." Rin shook her head. "I can help." He turned to argue, but stopped when he saw her determined face. "All right," he said finally. "Follow me, but stay close." They climbed down into the lower section of the ship where the engine core glowed dimly. Steam hissed from broken pipes, and the floor shook with each vibration. Elias knelt beside a cracked panel, opening it with a spark of light. Inside, wires and glowing tubes pulsed like veins. "Hand me that tool," he said, pointing. Rin quickly passed it to him, her hands shaking but eager. As he worked, Elias spoke quietly. "When I was your age, I used to build small engines out of scrap metal," he said. "I wanted to fly, just like the ships I saw on old screens." Rin smiled faintly. "Did you ever fly one?" Elias chuckled. "Oh yes, many times," he said, "but not always for good reasons." He paused, looking at the glowing wires. "I used to build warships," he whispered. "Now I'm using the same skills to save lives instead." Rin looked at him for a moment, her voice soft. "You're not like the others," she said. "Humans, I mean." He gave her a small smile. "Maybe I just learned too late what matters," he said. Before Rin could reply, a loud alarm echoed through the ship. A sharp electronic voice called out, "Incoming vessels detected." Elias jumped to his feet. "They're here already." He ran back to the control deck, Rin close behind him. Outside the windows, streaks of light flashed. Enemy ships emerging from hyperspace. 5, 6, maybe more, all sleek and silver. Council drones built for capture, not mercy. "Hold on," Elias shouted. He slammed the controls forward, and the ship dived into a nearby asteroid field. Rocks as big as mountains drifted through space, glowing faintly with ice. The Odyssey weaved between them, spinning and twisting. Lasers cut through the darkness. Explosions burst around them. The children screamed and held onto the walls. Rin ran to the radar screen, watching the dots multiply. "They're all around us," she shouted. Elias gritted his teeth. "They want to trap us," he said. "We'll have to outthink them." He turned a dial sharply, redirecting power from life support to the shields. The lights flickered and dimmed. Rin gasped. "You'll kill the heat." "I'll keep the engines alive instead," he said. "Better to freeze than to burn." A drone appeared in front of them, blocking their path. Elias pulled a lever, flipping the ship upside down and firing 2 plasma bursts. The drone exploded in a bright flash of white. The shockwave pushed them sideways, scraping the hull against a huge asteroid. Metal screamed, alarms blared. "Engine pressure dropping," Rin shouted, reading the display. Elias growled, "Just hold together a little longer." The Odyssey flew deeper into the asteroid field. Shards of rock crashed against the hull, sending sparks flying. Rin looked at Elias and saw blood on his forehead where he had hit the control panel, but he didn't stop. His eyes stayed fixed on the stars ahead. He muttered under his breath, "Almost there, almost." Then through the storm of rocks, a narrow gap appeared, a tunnel of light between 2 spinning asteroids. Elias smiled. "That's our door out," he said. He flipped a final switch and shouted, "Jump drive ready!" Rin grabbed the seats and yelled to the children, "Hold on tight!" The ship roared forward, engines screaming. Behind them, the drones fired one last barrage of lasers. One shot hit the rear engine. Fire burst out. Alarms shrieked. Elias slammed his hand on the lever. "Now!" he shouted. The stars stretched into long blue lines. The ship vanished into hyperspace, leaving the drones behind. Inside, the cabin went silent again. Sparks fell from the ceiling. The lights flickered weakly. Rin looked around. Everyone was alive, breathing, trembling. She turned to Elias, who was slumped in his seat, eyes halls. Open. "Did we make it?" she whispered. Elias smiled faintly. "For now," he said, voice low and broken. Then the lights went out completely. For a few seconds, there was only the sound of slow breathing and the hum of the damaged engine. The Odyssey drifted through the silent void like a wounded bird, and somewhere deep in that darkness, Rin whispered to herself, "We escaped the cold once," she said softly. "We can do it again." The Odyssey drifted silently through deep space. Outside, stars shimmered like cold lanterns in an endless sea. Inside, the hum of the ship was slow and weak, like the heartbeat of something dying. The lights flickered from time to time, casting soft shadows across the walls. Rin sat beside the control seat, watching Elias. He was pale, exhausted, his arm wrapped in a torn piece of cloth soaked with blood. The children slept in the corner, curled up under thermal sheets Elias had given them. For once, they weren't shivering, they looked peaceful. Small reminders that hope still existed. Rin had stayed awake, staring at the endless stars through the window. She didn't know how far they had traveled, but one thing was clear. They were alone, drifting, and almost out of power. Elias opened his eyes slowly. "How long was I out?" he whispered, his voice rough. Rin turned quickly. "You should rest," she said. "You're hurt." He smiled weakly. "Rest is a luxury when engines break down," he said. She frowned. "You saved us," she murmured. "Now let me help you." Elias chuckled softly. "You sound like someone I used to know," he said. Rin tilted her head. "Who?" He didn't answer right away, just stared at the stars. "Someone from home," he whispered finally. "Someone who believed that kindness can still change a world." The word home lingered in the air. Rin repeated it softly. Home. It felt strange on her tongue, like a word she once knew but forgot. "What is your home like?" she asked. Elias leaned back, his eyes half closed. "Blue skies, green forests," he said quietly. "And rain. Soft rain that falls on the rooftops at night." Rin smiled faintly. "Rain," she said. "We had that once before the cold." Her voice grew softer. Before everything turned to ice, Elias reached out and turned a small dial on the control panel. The lights brightened slightly. "We're near a dying star," he said. "Its heat might keep us warm while I fix the ship." He stood slowly, pain flashing across his face. Rin hurried to steady him, but he shook his head. "I'm fine," he said. "Check on the others." She nodded, walking toward the back of the ship. There, in the cargo bay, she noticed something she hadn't seen before. Metal crates stacked neatly, covered in dust. Curious, she wiped one and read the faded label. Earth Aid, Relief Supplies. Her heart skipped. She opened a crate carefully, and inside she found things she had never seen. Thick clothes, soft blankets, even small, colorful toys. At the bottom was a photograph. Human children smiling, playing in snow. She touched the picture gently, tracing their faces with her finger. "They look happy," she whispered, "even in the cold." Elias appeared behind her, his shadow long against the light. "They are," he said softly. "That was after one of Earth's great storms." He knelt beside her, his voice quiet. "Humans learned to survive the cold long ago." Rin looked up at him. "How?" she asked. He smiled. "By sharing warmth," he said, "not just with fire, but with each other." For a moment, silence filled the ship again. Rin held the photograph close, her eyes bright with tears. "It feels like they could have been us," she said. Elias nodded slowly. "Maybe that's why I found you," he said. "Maybe the stars wanted me to remember what home truly means." Suddenly, the ship's sensors beeped. Rin jumped. "What's that?" Elias moved to the console, his face tightening. A red signal blinked on the screen, movement near. He zoomed in and frowned. "It's not the Council," he said slowly. "It's something else." A shadow appeared on the radar, large, fast, and closing in. Rin felt a chill crawl up her spine. "Another ship?" she asked. "Yes," he said, "but not friendly." He flipped several switches, trying to reroute power to shields. The lights dimmed again, the hum deepened. Then a low vibration ran through the hull. A voice crackled through the comms. "Unknown vessel," it said. "Surrender your cargo and passengers." Rin froze. "Who are they?" Elias's expression darkened. "Pirates," he said. "Scavengers who hunt the weak." Her hands clenched. "What do we do?" He turned to her, calm but firm. "We survive," he said, "the same way we always have." He rushed to the control panel, pressing buttons as alarms began to wail. Rin ran to wake the children. The smallest one started crying, but Rin hugged her tightly. "It's okay," she whispered. "Stay close to me," Elias shouted from the cockpit. "They're locking weapons. Hang on." The Odyssey lurched violently as a blast hit the side. Sparks flew from the ceiling. Elias pulled the ship into a spin, diving between glowing fragments of space ice. "Can we run?" Rin yelled. "Not this time," he said. "Our engine's too weak." Outside the window, the pirate ship loomed larger, dark and sharp like a metal shark. Its cannons glowed red, ready to fire again. Inside, fear filled every breath. Elias gritted his teeth, whispering, "Not today." He hit a hidden switch, and metal shutters closed over the windows. The ship went dark, silent, invisible. The pirates circled the area, scanning, searching, but the Odyssey floated like a ghost among the shadows. Rin held her breath, listening to the faint hum of the dying engines. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Elias whispered, "They'll come back." Rin looked at him, eyes wide. "What will we do when they do?" Elias turned slowly toward her, his voice quiet but full of steel. "Then," he said, "we show them what a human can do." The Odyssey floated in the dark, silent and wounded. Outside, the pirate ship circled like a hungry predator, its red lights cutting through the void. Inside, the air was thick with fear. The children huddled together near the corner, their small eyes wide and shimmering. Rin stood beside Elias, her hands shaking as the ship creaked under the pressure of enemy scanners. Elias leaned over the control panel, his eyes moving fast. "They're scanning for life signs," he whispered. "If they find us, we're done." Rin swallowed hard. "Can we fight them?" He gave a small, tired smile. "Not head on," he said, "but maybe we don't have to." She frowned. "Then what?" "We make them think this ship is empty," he said quietly. "And when they step inside, we make them regret it." Rin stared at him, shocked. "But you're hurt." He glanced at the bandage on his arm and smirked. "Pain keeps me awake." She wanted to argue, but his eyes, steady and full of fire, stopped her. "Okay," she said. "Tell me what to do." Elias grabbed a small case from under the control seat and opened it. Inside were strange tools, cables, and metal cubes. "Maintenance traps," he said. "I built them for repairs, but today they'll do something else." He started connecting wires to the ship's ventilation system. Rin followed his lead, mimicking his movements. Her hands were unsure at first, but she learned quickly. Every spark of light reflected off her determined eyes. As they worked, Elias spoke in a low voice. "Do you know why I left the council?" he asked. Rin shook her head. "Because of war?" He nodded. "Because of what war made me," he said. "We were told to destroy to keep peace. But one day, I realized peace built on fear isn't peace at all." He tightened a bolt and added, "That's why I built this ship, to help those who can't fight back." Rin looked at him for a long moment. "You're strange," she said softly. "Most humans I heard about didn't care about anyone but themselves." Elias smiled faintly. "Maybe that's true for some," he said, "but not all. Sometimes it only takes one human to remind the stars what kindness looks like." Before she could reply, the radar beeped. Elias's eyes narrowed. "They're docking," he said. Rin felt her pulse race. "What do we do now?" He looked at her calmly. "Now," he said, "we make a stand." The ship trembled as a loud metallic clang echoed through the hull. The pirates had attached their boarding tube. Elias motioned to Rin. "Hide the children in the storage bay," he said. She ran to the others, whispering, "Stay quiet, no matter what happens." The smallest one began to cry, but Rin hugged her close until she stopped. Then she turned and ran back to Elias. He was setting up the last of his traps, placing glowing metal cubes on the floor. "What are those?" Rin asked. "Pressure charges," he said. "They'll give our guests a warm welcome." He handed her a small device. "Push this when I tell you." She nodded, gripping it tightly. The airlock hissed, a deep voice echoed through the ship. "Attention, vessel Odyssey. You are surrounded. Surrender your cargo and crew," Elias replied calmly, his voice amplified through the speakers. "This ship carries nothing you want." The voice laughed, dark and cruel. "Then we'll take what's left anyway." The door burst open with a blast. Metal boots thundered against the floor. 3 armored figures stepped inside, their masks glowing red. Elias crouched behind a control panel, waiting. When the first pirate stepped on a glowing tile, click, the corridor erupted in flame. The blast knocked the others backward, their armor scorched and smoking. Rin pressed the button Elias had given her. Pipes overhead burst open, releasing clouds of thick steam. The hallway filled with white fog, blinding the pirates. Elias moved like a shadow, using the confusion to strike. He slammed one with a metal rod, sparks flying. The second turned and fired, missing him by inches. Rin threw a piece of broken pipe, hitting the pirate's helmet. The shot ricocheted into the wall, shorting out the lights. In the darkness, Elias's voice rang out, "Leave now and live." But the pirates only laughed. "You think one man and a few children can stop us?" Elias's tone hardened. One man can do a lot when he's got something worth protecting. Then he activated the final trap. Electric arcs surged through the floor, shocking the pirates and disabling their suits. The smell of burnt metal filled the air. When the light returned, the pirates lay unconscious, smoke rising from their armor. Rin stood frozen, her heart pounding. Elias limped forward, breathing hard. "It's done," he said, his voice trembling. She looked at him with awe. You saved us again." He smiled faintly. "You helped," he said. "You're learning fast." She wanted to smile back, but her eyes filled with worry instead. "You're bleeding," she whispered, seeing the dark stain spreading down his arm. He waved it off weakly. "I've had worse," he said, then stumbled. Rin caught him before he fell. "Don't talk," she said. "Just rest." He tried to speak, but his voice faded. "Listen, if anything happens to me," he whispered, "you take the ship. Find Sanctuary 9. Rin shook her head, tears in her eyes. "You're not dying," she said firmly. "Not after all this." But Elias just smiled, faintly, sadly. "I told you once," he murmured. "Kindness can change the stars." Then his eyes closed. The ship was quiet again, except for the soft hum of damaged systems. Rin sat beside him, holding his hand tightly. Outside, the void shimmered, and far away, new lights appeared on the radar. Not pirates this time, but the sharp silver signatures of council ships. Rin looked at the screen, fear turning into something else. "Determination," she whispered to herself. "If they want to fight," she said, "they'll find more than a human waiting." Red warning lights flashed across the Odyssey's control room. The quiet hum of the ship had turned into a restless growl. Outside, 3 council warships drifted closer, their silver hulls reflecting the dying light of a nearby star. They moved with precision, cold and perfect, like wolves closing in on a wounded deer. Rin stood at the window, her breath fogging the glass. Her small hands trembled, but her eyes burned with a strange calm. She could see the council's insignia, a shining circle surrounded by sharp wings. Once, that symbol had meant order and peace. Now to her, it only meant silence and death. Behind her, Elias lay on a stretcher near the ship's core. His breathing was shallow, his skin pale. Rin had done what she could, wrapped his wound, kept him warm. But he hadn't woken since the fight. Every few minutes, she glanced at him, hoping to see his eyes open again. But the man who had saved them once from the cold, once from death, now lay between both. The ship's communicator crackled. A sharp, commanding voice filled the air. "This is Commander Virel of the Galactic Council Enforcement Fleet," it said. "Unidentified human vessel, you are charged with harboring illegal life forms and violating the Council's genetic purity code. Surrender immediately or be destroyed." The words hit Rin like a blow. Harboring illegal life forms. That was what they called her people now. Not refugees, not survivors, but illegal. She clenched her fists, anger burning hotter than fear. Elias had risked everything for them, and the council still called him a criminal. The children gathered near her, their eyes wide. "What are they saying?" one asked softly. Rin looked down at them, forcing a small smile. "They're asking if we're strong," she said quietly, "and we are." But inside, her heart raced. She didn't know how long the Odyssey could hold. One hit from those shadiers. PS would tear them apart. The council voice returned, colder now. "You have 1 minute to comply." A bright beam of light scanned across the ship. It glowed on the hull like a mark of judgment. Rin ran to the controls, trying to recall everything Elias had shown her. Buttons, switches, dials. It all looked impossible. Then she heard his voice in her head, calm and firm. "Don't be afraid of the stars, Rin. They're just waiting for someone brave enough to reach them." She took a deep breath and touched the main power switch. The engines roared weakly to life, the radar filled with moving dots, missiles being armed. Rin turned to the children. "Hold on to something," she said. Then she slammed the throttle forward. The Odyssey shot forward, spinning through the thin debris of space. Blinding lights flashed behind them as the council ships opened fire. Bolts of plasma streaked across the darkness, exploding like small suns. The ship shook violently. Alarms screamed, but Rin didn't stop, her eyes fixed on the screen ahead. "There," she whispered, spotting a cluster of storm clouds swirling near a magnetic moon. "If we reach that storm, they can't track us." But the council wasn't letting them go so easily. Another voice came through the speakers, this one softer but more dangerous. "Rin of the Thrain," it said. "We know who you are and what you carry. The human beside you has broken the highest law of the stars. If you surrender now, we may let your kind live." Rin froze. They knew her name. She turned to Elias, unconscious but still breathing. Tears welled in her eyes. "He didn't break the law," she whispered. "He saved us." She pressed the comms button and shouted, "You talk about law, but you left us to die." Her voice shook with fury. "Humans remember what you forgot. Mercy." The council ship fired another volley. The Odyssey jolted hard. Sparks burst from the ceiling. Panels fell, and the children screamed. Rin grabbed the wheel and shouted, "Hold on!" The ship spun through the storm, lightning tearing through space around them. Electric waves crashed over the hull, creating flashes of purple light, but the magnetic field also distorted the council's sensors. One by one, their tracking systems went dark. Inside the chaos, Rin felt something shift. The ship's power core started to fail. She hit the console. "Come on," she whispered. "Not now." Then a weak voice came from behind her. "Rin!" She turned sharply. Elias was awake, his eyes dull but focused. "You did good," he murmured. She ran to him. "You shouldn't move," she said. He gave a faint laugh. "I've been told that before." Then he coughed, his voice rasping. "Set the coordinates for Sanctuary 9. Rin nodded quickly. "Where is it?" He pointed weakly to the map. "Hidden world, far beyond the Council's reach," he said. "It's where peace still breathes." Outside, another explosion rocked the ship. A piece of debris tore through the left wing. The whole cabin shuddered. Elias grabbed Rin's arm. "You have to finish this," he said, "even if I can't." She looked at him, tears filling her eyes. "I can't do this without you," she whispered. He smiled faintly. "You already are." With trembling hands, she entered the coordinates. The jump drive began to charge, light building in the core. The council ships surrounded them again, forming a triangle of light. "This is your final warning," came the command. Rin looked through the window, her face pale but fearless. She whispered softly, "You can't forgive kindness because you never learned it." Then she slammed her hand down on the control. The Odyssey leapt forward, vanishing into a blinding wave of blue light. The council ships fired, but they hit only the trail of energy left behind. Inside the jump tunnel, everything went white. Rin held on to Elias, her brother, and the hope he gave her. The engines screamed, sparks filled the air, and for one endless moment, it felt like they were flowing through the heartbeat of the universe itself. Then, silence. The stars vanished, replaced by a faint glow on the horizon. The ship was shaking, engines failing, but alive. Rin looked out the window and gasped. Ahead was a golden world shining through the mist, their destination. Elias smiled faintly. "Sanctuary 9, he whispered. Then his voice faded. Rin held his hand and said softly, "The law may not forgive, Elias," she whispered, "but I will." Light poured through the cockpit window like liquid gold. The Odyssey drifted out of the storm and into calm skies. Below them stretched a world of soft green valleys, silver rivers, and gentle sunlight. For the first time in forever, there was no cold, no fire, no war, only warmth. Rin pressed her hand to the glass, her eyes wide with wonder. "Is this real?" she whispered. Behind her, Elias lay weak but breathing. His chest rose and fell slowly, each breath a small victory. The children stood near the window, silent and amazed. Their faces glowed in the sunlight, the kind of light they had never known before. It touched their skin gently, not like the cruel wind of their old world, but like a mother's hand. The ship's engines coughed and hissed as they entered the planet's atmosphere. Smoke filled the air, sparks burst from the control panel. Rin grabbed the handles and tried to steady the ship. "Come on," she whispered, "just a little more." Elias's voice came weakly from behind her. "You can do it," he murmured. "Just follow the light." The Odyssey broke through the clouds. Ahead was a wide plain surrounded by silver mountains. Rin guided the ship down carefully, the controls trembling under her hands. The landing was rough, shaking the walls. But when it was over, the engines went silent and the ship finally rested. For a long moment, no one moved. Then Rin stood slowly and walked to the door to press the release button, and with a soft hiss, the hatch opened. Warm air rushed in, carrying the scent of grass and clean water. She stepped out, feeling soft soil beneath her feet for the first time. It was warm, alive, real. She closed her eyes and whispered, "We made it." The children followed, one by one, stepping into the sunlight. They laughed, cried, and fell to their knees, touching the ground as if afraid it would disappear. A gentle breeze passed over them, and for the first time they weren't running or hiding. They were home. Behind them, the ship door opened again. Elias appeared, leaning against the frame, pale but smiling. Rin ran to him quickly. "You shouldn't move," she said. He shook his head. "If this is what we fought for, I want to see it." He looked at the sky, at the mountains, at the children playing in the sunlight. For a man who had spent years drifting through cold space, this sight was more than life. It was peace. He sat down on a rock near the ship, his armor reflecting the golden light. Rin knelt beside him. "You kept your promise," she said. He smiled faintly. "No, you did," he whispered. "You got them here." She shook her head, tears glimmering in her eyes. "I couldn't have done it without you." He looked at her, eyes soft and proud. "You already were stronger than me," he said. "You just didn't know it yet." For a moment, neither spoke. The wind moved through the grass, carrying the laughter of the children. One of them found a flower, silver petals glowing faintly in the sun. He ran to Rin and placed it in her hand. "Look," he said, smiling. "It's warm." Rin held it carefully and smiled. "It's alive," she whispered. "Like us." Elias leaned back, closing his eyes. His breathing slowed, his smile still on his lips. Rin's voice trembled. "Elias?" He opened his eyes once more and looked at the children playing. "Looks like we made it," he whispered softly. Then his eyes slowly closed again. The wind carried his final breath like a sigh of peace. Rin sat beside him for a long time, her hands folded over his. The sun climbed higher, bathing the valley in gold. In the distance, the Odyssey glowed faintly, its metal catching the light. The children built small stones around it. Not a grave, but a marker, a promise. As the day passed, Rin stood and looked toward the sky. Far above, flashes of light blinked. Council ships, searching but never finding. The storms that protected Sanctuary 9 twisted and shimmered, hiding them perfectly. Rin raised her face to the sky and whispered, "You can search forever, but you'll never understand him." Her voice was calm, filled with strength. "Humans may be flawed," she said softly, "but they remember what others forget. Compassion." The children gathered beside her, holding hands. "What will we do now?" one of them asked. Rin smiled gently. "We live," she said. "We build what was lost." She looked at the horizon where silver rivers met the mountains, and one day we'll tell the stars about him. That night, when the sun sank behind the hills, they built a small fire, not for heat, but for memory. Rin sat beside it, staring at the flame. In its glow, she could almost see Elias's face, calm, kind, and human. She whispered quietly, "You gave us warmth, even when the universe had none." The fire crackled softly, and the stars shone brighter above. Somewhere in the wreck of the Odyssey, a light flickered. A beacon Elias had built long ago. It blinked 3 times, then projected a message into the night sky. A human voice echoed through the valley. "Wherever you are, whoever you are, remember this. There's always warmth where humanity walks." Rin looked up, tears shining in her eyes. She smiled and whispered back, "And there always will be."